like, I mean, now that I'm like in recovery, I weigh like 130, 120, you know,
Yeah, you're
fluctuating.
right.
But I used to like have a routine. Like now my prayer routine, let's just do this. My prayer routine, it was the first thing I did every morning. I would get a 12-pack of beer, okay? And while I was getting ready, I would have 3 of them. And then on my way to work, I would have 3 more. So I'd have a 12-pack of beer before, and people are like, oh my gosh, were you wasted? And it's like, no, the scary thing about alcoholism is that I was just maintaining, you know?
Right.
And so I probably had a 24-pack of beer a day. And then depending on the vibe, or towards the end, I started drinking liquor as well.
Right.
And I would shake, you know, if I didn't drink. But what I will say is that the drugs are what brought me to my knees. Cocaine is the devil's drug. Like it's the worst. And so
well, that's what then like really keeps you up and keeps you going, right?
Right. And
yeah, it's like a vicious circle.
Yeah. And the worst part about it is that like it makes you like productive. You know what I mean? Like you can tell when someone is like coked out or like has had too much. But a lot of the time, I mean, I'm high energy already.
Right.
And so it was just, you know, and like the repercussions of my drug use are lasting. Same with my alcoholism. Like my nose is messed up from cocaine.
Wow.
Like little things
okay,
like
we
that.
Can't see your face. Can we see your face? No.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I want to see your face. Yeah, there you are. Okay. No, I can't see your eyes. Yeah, lower. Perfect. Okay.
Right here?
No, up a little more. We just want to see you. Okay, perfect. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Everybody, I can't see what I look like.
Yeah, it's weird. So as a guest, it makes her, like, it does this almost to the profile.
Oh my gosh, one of my friends, I met one of my, like, Insta friends when I was in Massachusetts, and she just sent me a text and said, we can't see your face. So, hi, Emily.
Yeah. Okay, you got to push it up more. There you go. Okay.
Is that good?
That's better. Okay. So from the cocaine use, it ruined your nose and maybe even your heart too a little. No,
probably. I don't know. Like
but this is like becoming, guys. This is like becoming an epidemic among kids because.
And the thing is, with alcoholism especially, I will tell you that my parents had no idea. And I always tell people that when people like feel like, oh my gosh, like they're surprised. My parents had no idea. They didn't even know that I had really fallen away from the faith because addicts are and I know this, I mean, not even just myself, my fiance and the circles that I surround myself with, addicts are some of the smartest people I have ever met. Right, because although I wasn't drinking and like causing a scene everywhere, it was only because I was so concerned about protecting my addiction that I did everything in my power to protect that. So if I knew I was going somewhere that people I never went a day without drinking, but I would make sure to like function, like to like formulate it so I wouldn't blow my cover. Right. And so that was a huge thing. And it doesn't matter how much you drink, when you drink, where you drink, why you drink. It's the fact that when you are not drinking, you're still thinking about drinking. You're obsessing over it. That even if I just had my 6-pack in the morning, my entire day, I was thinking about when I was going to have it again. And it was impacting me, you know? And it like addiction makes you do crazy things.
Oh,
crazy
totally.
things.
Totally. Okay, so now you're into the cocaine, and then what happened? Like, how did you eventually?
So this is wild. So I was in, let's see, it was 2014. So that fall, I was working in politics. I was, doing great at my job, and I ended up being in a very abusive, I want to say relationship, but it wasn't a relationship. I don't think I was capable of that. So I was in like a friendship, and I went back I visited Denver. So I'm in Denver right now. My mom's side of the family lives here, but I was living in Dallas, Texas. And I went to school in Oklahoma. Another thing about addiction is that I've lived in 6 different states, like Michigan, New York City, and I would always travel for work. Like I would find internships and stuff because I'm 28 now. I just turned 28. So I was like 23.
Right.
Yeah, I was 23 when I got sober. Anyway, I think I'm 28. Yeah, I'm 28. So I came and I visited my grandparents, and I was very distant from my family, but I've always been independent, so it wasn't too big of an alarm. Like I'm the oldest of like 5 kids. Like I am there, and my grandparents are like, let's pray the rosary. And I'm like, okay, yeah, totally. And I was totally hiding the fact, and I talk about this with Church Pop a lot, that I was like practicing what other people, like I'm like, okay, that is what a good Catholic looks like. So I'm going to pretend to do everything they were doing. And even before that, I would like do whatever they were doing. So I didn't have like my own genuine faith. So we're praying the rosary, and it was my turn to lead. And I forgot how to say the Hail Mary. And I was like, oh my gosh. And when I was little, I liked praying the rosary because in Catholic school, we made our own rosaries, and they were like out of these little gems. And I just thought it was so great. And like Mary was so beautiful. So it was, romantic for me. And,
Yes.
and it is now again.
Yeah, obviously it would be still Caroline. Yes.
Yeah. And so I forgot how to say the Hail Mary. And I don't know how I got out of that like awkward situation.
Yeah.
But that was like my first thing. And you would think that I would be like, oh my gosh, this is a sign, but no. So I ended up going back from Denver to Dallas or to Austin because my like political, like the election was over, the midterm elections. So I'm back in Austin, and that guy, he's like my Voldemort. That guy was there, and I told him, I said, I can't be with you anymore. I don't want, and he had followed me down to Austin. It was bizarre. And I said, I can't. So I'm not going to get into the details of that because I've actually never really talked about this or like revealed this. So, but he tried to kill me. He cornered me one night, and he strangled me, and I passed out, and I had bruises all over, and he like basically beat the you-know-what out of me.
Wow.
And it was terrible. And after that, we ended up like going to the cops and whatever. And again, you would think that I would be like, wow, because there was like a big God moment in that I survived that situation, but I didn't. And so instead I ran away from my problems, and I ended up in Dallas, which is where I hit my rock bottom.
Okay.
So,
I mean, I just want to say thank you. That's why I've just always been so blown away by Caroline, because I think so many of us have our own problems, but within the Catholic Church, we tend to, we want to act and be a certain way, and we're lacking in the truth, right? And so I know that so many are struggling because I get and see so many of the DMs. And I just think, Caroline, like sharing your story, you are so brave, but you're helping so many.
Well, I'm just going to give a disclaimer. I've paid a lot for therapy. So a lot of couch time went into this. But I saw
right.
I saw someone asked, how did I stop?
Right.
And the answer to that,
you don't really quickly stop, right?
What?
You don't it's not really like you just stop, right? It's a constant battle every day.
Oh, well, yeah. And
right.
I'll make this a quick thing. So I was at the end, and I did some talks about this on my bio. And if you follow me on Instagram and view my stories, I'll like show everybody, and I'll like give you the links. But so I was at a moment where I was thinking about ending my life, and I didn't. And I felt like there was not literally, like you can't joke about demons in the Catholic Church, but like I felt like there was something inside me, and it wasn't me. And like addiction is the biggest tool of the devil, but that's a completely different topic. So I ended up going home to my parents' house. I had a black eye because I got punched in the face by my drug dealer, like because I got into like selling cocaine in Dallas, and like I told my mom, and my parents are shocked. They had no idea that any of this was happening. So we ended up going, I ended up going to Betty Ford in Minnesota. But before that, the doctor, the urgent care person said, you can't just quit. You will die. If you go cold turkey, your body will shut down. Alcohol withdrawal is deadly.
Right.
And so I ended up going up to Minnesota for treatment, and I was in the hospital shaking. I was getting monitored. And again, I'm 23 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, that's 2 years of drinking every day. And I'm in the psych ward, okay? And I'm laying there, and I had the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the Serenity Prayer was the first prayer I said coming back to the church. I said the Serenity Prayer. That was it. That was the first time I ever mentioned God, okay?
Right.
And I'm laying there, and all I remember, and this is no joke, all I remember is saying, like, God, help me. And it makes me want to cry. I saw an image of John Paul II in my mind, and I met him when I was in 4th grade. I talk about that, like, on my thing. I saw the image in my mind that I had permanently screenshotted in my mind of John Paul II from when I was younger. That was, like, my only memory of the Catholic faith. Right. And after that, I woke up, and I go in, and the nurses are like, your blood pressure is fine. My liver enzymes were down. It was crazy. It was a miraculous thing.
Wow.
And so then I ended up going to treatment, going back to Hazelden.
Right.
And I was there for 60 days. And I'm a firm believer, 28-day rehabs are not a thing. Okay.
You got to do 60 days.
You have to do more than 30 days. You have to do more than the time it takes for the alcohol and the drugs to get out of your system. That's my first recommendation. Right. Everybody has a different experience. Right. Mm-hmm. That's my first recommendation. It has to be more than 60 days. And it also, you have to remove yourself from your playthings and your play places. A lot of people.
That's what I think is actually the hardest, because you really go from having a community of people where obviously you all friends. Yes. Yeah. To like nothing. I mean, that's why I think those AA meetings are so important, right? Because you have this community of people that, can help and support, but.
Right. And so then I did 60 days in treatment, and then I was in a halfway house where it was like a blend of criminals coming out of jail and then people coming out of treatment. I was in a halfway house for 60 days, which was the biggest, because it takes a lot of humility to go through this, to be able to be hey, I'm defeated. You lose friends. And so I was in a halfway house for 60 days. And then I was in a sober house for 8 months. So I gave myself an entire year to complete the 12 steps of my 12-step program, which is crucial. You cannot get sober and stay sober without finding the root of why you're drinking, of what triggers that. Wow. And so I had a year of sobriety before I moved from Minnesota here to Denver. And then literally the day after my year of sobriety, I started at Church Pop.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. And when you were talking with Church Pop, were they very much we'd like you to share your story, or did that come out later?
No. So the way I got that job is funny, because when I moved away, my grandparents, I just had this feeling. I was like, I have to go. My grandpa's turning 80, and I have no concept of age. So I'm like, he's going to die next week.
Yeah.
So I moved there, and I lived at my grandparents' house because I had zero money to my name, and part of the AA way of life. And I know it's anonymous, and so I do not speak on behalf of AA, but part of that was paying off, was my financial amends. So I owed a lot of money to people. Yeah. Yeah. And so I lived at my grandparents, and I was like, I'm going to get back into politics and news, because I worked at Fox News in New York, and I worked in politics. So those were the two things that I was like, I know how to do these things. Mm-hmm. God obviously knew that I could not do that. That was not conducive to my new life. So it was like a St. Paul's, falling off the horse, where I realized that I could use the skills that I had learned at those jobs for something better. And so I got called by EWTN, the Catholic news agency is here in Denver. and they called me and they said, we don't know where we're going to put you, but we'd love to talk to you. So I came in and I said, this is what I can do. And they said, well, Church Pop is very new. They had like just acquired it. And we kind of want to like start the Instagram, like start something. So that's your project, have at it. So I just had complete freedom to do that. And I told them, I said, well, this is my background and I'm a terrible liar. And I'm a firm believer that secrets keep you sick. So and that's my thing. I was like, I cannot pretend to be something else because that's what I did for so long. Right. And then it like weighs on you. You know what I mean? So it kind of, I mean, I started sharing my personal story on Church Pop. And once the audience started growing, I realized that I wasn't comfortable sharing it anymore. Right. I mean, I share my conversion story a lot on Church Pop, but then I started Be Still like a year later for many reasons. But one of them was so I could be authentic and share my story. Right. And if you don't like it, then don't follow Be Still. Continue to follow Church Pop because Church Pop's awesome. But Be Still is where I kind of have that more.
Yep. Wow. Okay. So let's say that you have a family member that does have an addiction or you are struggling with an addiction. Where do they start? Obviously, they can reach out to you, but where do they start?
Okay. So which one should we focus on first? The addict or the family?
Let's do the addict.
Okay. The addict. If you think that alcoholism is a thing or drug addiction, it's a lot of the time it's hard to discern if that's your problem. If it is your problem, I would strongly suggest, or even if it's not, to pick up the book of Alcoholics Anonymous and read through there. That was the first time when I was like, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. Because you don't have to have a withdrawal. It doesn't matter how much you drink. An addiction or alcoholism, it's like that substance that's a block between you and God. And that's that, you know.
It clouds.
Yeah.
Vision.
So I would suggest for reach out to me, and I'm not going to say it's a lot to ask for. Be like, oh, just go to an AA meeting. That is a lot.
Yeah.
So I would strongly suggest first you start praying to the intercession of John Paul II to be able to see God's face of love and mercy, because that is a huge deal when you're going through that. And St. Maximilian Kolbe, because he, in my life, his intercession has been so powerful when it comes to addiction, because addiction is like I will never not be an addict. You know what I mean? So I have to pray through him, you know. I am just as close to a drink as anybody else is. But the difference is that I have more of like a barrier between me and that drink. So I would strongly suggest first step. There are many steps after that. The first step, reach out to me in total confidence. I am very anonymous. I will not say anything to anyone because I take like that. I take that very personally, very personally. Right. And grab a book of Alcoholics Anonymous, or if you don't want people to see that you have that book, look it up on your phone.
Okay. And then the family member or like a friend, right?
Okay.
You know that, what do you do? Like, this is where I always struggle. Like, yes, we love them, but at some point too, you kind of have to
screw you over, for lack of a better word. Like they mess with you, right?
Yeah.
So I would, number one, realize that it's not your fault, that there's nothing you can do, and it's not your job to get them help. It's not your job to get them sober.
Right.
It's your job to be the hand, but you can't give a hand out. You have to get a hand up. Because or else they will manipulate you and they'll take advantage of your love and your kindness. I know that no one tried to get me help before I came forward, but that's the difference. I think
but they do need to feel comfortable enough that if they do come forward with the addiction, that you will not judge them, right?
Yeah.
Right. This delicate,
Right. But you have to realize that they have to be willing. They have to be willing, because I see so many people trying to get sober for someone else, and that doesn't stick. They have to get sober for themselves. What I would suggest is you pray through the intercession of St. Maximilian Kolbe and go to an Al-Anon meeting. Yeah. An Al-Anon. There's Alateen if you're a teenager and your parents or someone, go to an Al-Anon meeting. because they are people that have, have that as well. And you can also, there's a portion of the big book that you can get online. And one of them is called For Wives and For Employers. There's those two sections, like a letter to wives and for employers, the two chapters in the AA big book.
Right.
And the big book, there's also Narcotics Anonymous, which has kind of the same, it reflects the 12 steps. Mm-hmm. But I would look at For Wives and For Employers, because it kind of explains that they are not bad people. They are sick, and it's a disease.
Yes, right.
So go to Al-Anon and pray to Maximilian Kolbe. And again, reach out to me.
Yeah.
Because, and my fiance, it's funny, Marshall has a different approach than I do. He is more of he will give, like, if you have a son that's going through it, he is very cutthroat, like, get clean or die, like, very hardcore about it.
Yeah.
I am more of, like, the faith-oriented, pray. So we have a good team going.
That's so great. I'm so excited for you, and I'm just so thankful that you talked about this today, because
I'm always here.
I know, you're so great, so fantastic. So I will make sure that I share your handles so that they can find you, and then I don't know if you want to put it in your stories, because I know you've written about it a lot. So if they go. I
could send you the links to I've shared my story a couple times on different podcasts and stuff.
Perfect. This is so great. Thank you so much, Caroline.
Well, I am so happy to be here. I've been keeping it together because I am such a fan of you. And I think Marshall's I tell him all about, I'm like, oh my gosh, one time she took the wrong kid to a birthday party and she has pizza every night. And I talked to Marshall about that. And then he's like, how many kids does she have? And I'm like, and I show him your family. He goes, oh, I'm like,
no, I get it, right?
We're getting married in May.
Yeah. Not something to aspire to, that's for sure.
Right.
You don't want to drop the wrong kid off at the birthday party. Oh my gosh. I think most people assume, because I have a lot of kids, I must be organized, I must be structured. I'm not. Those are my weaknesses. So my poor children,
people think I'm really disciplined because I share all about discipline. Plan on Church Pop, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just, for the first time, I consecrated myself to Divine Mercy for the first time recently. And everyone's like, oh, are you not consecrated to Mary? I'm like, I have tried so many times. I'm starting my Marian consecration, I think today or tomorrow, so it's going. But
I wonder when that was. We were gonna try and do one here too again. Yeah, the devil is so real when you do those.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right?
And when you do God's work, St. Faustina says that the greater the work is, the stronger the storms that wage against it. And I'm a firm believer in that.
Oh.
So, yeah.
That's why we say our rosary.
Right?
That's right. All right, Caroline, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll send you all the info, and thank you so much for having me. Let's make a plan after this for me to come on again.
Yes, 100%. We love you.
All
okay,
right.
Bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.